Everybody, it's Brianna with Brianna's Mobile Workshop, and like I said before, I have a special guest. This is Jade from Bloom Images, and I've also invited G and Mary Lou as well from the Body Shop. Um, I was kind of the two of them. I was like, I really like to see them come on because they have such a presence whenever they do their shows on Wednesdays that I think it would be so much fun to have them involved with this.
You realize it's Sunday afternoon after a work night, so we may not be as vibrant as we are in the middle of the week,
or at least made up.
Yeah, this is not my typical Sunday morning either, getting made up. So, so yeah, Jade, thank you for being able to come on and joining us on this multi-streaming event. I just really wanted to, kind of like the whole reason I really wanted to do this, because this was totally me chasing down Jade. Well, I didn't chase her. I talked to Jade. She's done 4 photo shoots for me. They're all 4 fantastic. The ability for you to get into my mind and stuff was so freaking awesome, and to get me to relax, that was the biggest thing. So I really wanted to do this show to help get you out there to the people I know, to my friends, and connect the two of you together. But I don't know where to get next with this.
Well, you said something that triggered a thought, and I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to ask Jade a question. You said Jade got into your mind. What does that mean?
So, for sure, like the first time I talked to Jade about doing a photo shoot, I guess the first thing you think about, like, there's all this attention poised on you. So you tend to freeze up. You get boxy. You get like just choppy. Like you're not truly expressing yourself into a photo shoot. And Jay was actually able to break down those walls of just and intensity and get me to like relax. Yeah.
All right. So in that same vein, Jade, how do you know? To be able, first of all, how do you know that you need to do that? And then number 2, how do you do that?
Well, I know it because I've been in front of the camera before. I've done a number of shoots where I'm the model with someone else being the photographer, and nobody ever knows what to do with their hands or how to make certain ways. So knowing that from the experience side, even though I've been in front of the camera many times, it doesn't matter how many times, you're still a little like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so that was the first like reason that I would know that. And then secondly, you can see it in a person where they're just kind of closed a little bit at the beginning. There's shoots that I do that are more intimate, and sometimes people are uncomfortable with wearing revealing clothing or no clothing, and making that person comfortable and show their inner sparkle is extremely important to get them a good photo. Otherwise, they've got like clenched teeth and tight face muscles and things like that. So it's a matter of making that person as comfortable as quickly as possible so that they can be themselves fully in that session. Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah, so 2 things. One for you, and then I'm going to ask Mary Lou a question. You said intimate. You said sometimes it gets intimate. Can you describe what that means?
There's a couple different things that it can mean. I've done actual intimate settings where it's a husband and wife or couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you, where they're actually like kissing or touching or what have you. And that is like an intimate time between the two of them. But there's also the intimate of anything less than your natural presentation that you give to the world. And so, for example, Brianna just showed you guys her gold fleck one. She was topless for that one, and that's not how she walks around for the day. So
I beg to differ.
At her normal gig, that's not how you normally walk around. And so oftentimes women aren't comfortable with their bodies. Many men are not comfortable with their bodies. I've done revealing ones with men as well, there's a self-conscious factor that everyone has, and crossing that barrier can be hard for people, especially if they're not comfortable or they get weird vibes from the other side. So
that's cool. So the question for Mary Lou, you guys probably have seen, Mary Lou's done a couple of different like photo shoots, very similar to what you do, Jade, because you've done those here at the club as well.
yes.
The question for Mary Lou is any of this track with you, like as far as like being uncomfortable and like having to, working with a photographer and getting into a groove? Do you find that is that true for you as well?
Oh, very much so. Because I think you don't know what to expect the first time around. And like you said, it ends up becoming intimate with you and the photographer as well. Because you do have to let your guard down, and you do have to allow them to either help pose you, because they could be saying, grab your outfit by the neck and pull down on it or something. And your vision and their vision are totally different. So you're like all over the place, and you have to allow that person to come into your space.
Yes.
And so that's where the intimacy comes in with the photographer of choice. So yeah, you kind of build that relationship with them. And like Brianna, you said this is like your third or your fourth one.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming your comfort level has kind of like, okay, I can do this, and you know how to pose now, and you know what you want. Because a lot of times we don't know.
To the photographer too, because things that someone would say for a photo isn't necessarily translated into everyday language. Like tilt your head to one person is twist of the head to another person.
Yeah.
Right.
Like she said, where the photographer is entering your space, I always ask, hopefully I always remember, but I always ask, can I touch you? Like, can I adjust your hair? Can I adjust your whatever straps or things like that? You don't want to just grab at them. You want the person to be comfortable and to welcome you in to make their picture as beautiful as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. So, so basically, all of you have been. Well, I shouldn't say all of you. I was going to say all of you have been on both sides of the lenses. But Jade, you've obviously been on both sides of the lens. Which do you prefer?
Both for different reasons. I really enjoy being in front of the lens because it gets, it's a challenge for me to put my personality through my face. And so a lot of comments that I get on my pictures that I am in is that I have really expressive eyes. And so there is a skill to getting the thought that's in your head out your eyes and through the expressions on your face. And I find that as a challenge and something fun. And I tend to do flirty pictures. And so I like to see if I can get a reaction from the person on the other side of the camera while they're shooting me. That's like my twisted desk. So if I can get them to be like, oh, that's an amazing look or what have you, like that's really fun and it's interactive. As for me shooting, it's a whole different enjoyment. Seeing somebody open up from being that nervous, shy, insecure, just unknowing state to laughing and sparkling. Like, I'm not kidding when I say people leave a session sparkling. Like, they are happy and excited and feel special and they feel pampered and they shine. They literally, their personality is shining as they go out, and seeing that transformation in front of you is extremely touching. It's an amazing experience for myself.
I know that when we have worked together and have done some of the photo shoots here at the body shop, I know one of the things you always ask everyone at the beginning is, have you ever done one of these? And a lot of times they haven't. And like you say, it's totally amazing. And sometimes, like for me to see them walk in, being closed off 1 minute and then seeing them shooting with you, and then when they go to leave, it's like they're a totally different person. It's like they had that moment of like, wow, that's me.
Yeah, and
that really is me.
I turn the camera around and I show them. It's an unedited and it's a super small image, but I show them themselves, and oftentimes there's this gasp of, I didn't know I could look like that. I didn't know that I looked that way to other people. So there's this one thing of you going to the mirror and looking at yourself every day as you get ready, you brush your teeth, whatever. You see yourself in the mirror and you see how you are. But that's not how other people see you. It's never how other people see you. They don't see you while you're brushing your teeth and making those weird faces. Like, they see you in a different way. And getting those angles and being able to show them this is what the world sees you as, it is like this big light bulb to a lot of people.
Yeah.
What about you, Brianna? Does this all track with you as well?
It does. I mean, even from the first shot, I remember the first photo shoot we did. It was pre-augmentation, so not only was it difficult for me. I mean, I'm in transition, so I'm totally feeling this manly, masculine side of me, and I think that was just it was such a revealing portion of that shoot with Jade. And the fact that Jade was able to do it without making me feel any more uncomfortable than I was making myself. She was actually able to make me feel more comfortable with me, because that shoot was it was a bare top version. I kind of wanted to show before and after my augmentation. I also didn't realize how I would feel after the shoot. I was initially, I'm like, this was the worst shoot ever. It wasn't because of Jay. It was because, like, you know, she was showing me pictures and it's like they're beautiful, and I'm like, I look atrocious. So yeah, that whole being your own worst critic was definitely there. But after looking at the pictures afterwards, there was an eloquence to it. There was definitely that part of me that I always felt growing up, and to the point where I finally came out, like it was definitely transcribing into those pictures. And yeah, and that's the whole reason I'm having this, is because there are so many people in the trans community who I feel this can be such a revealing thing for themselves. Just for them. They may never show these pictures to anybody else. But the whole psychological mindset for me, it was just so revealing.
So when you said that, it triggered the thought of, you know, sort of a pre and post transitioning photo shoot, and I think it would be interesting to you know, for anybody who has the ability to do it, because like you said, you're seeing yourself in two different lights, and two different lights where you're presented, you know, in a beautiful way. Both are still you, and both are still authentically you, but to see the
metamorphosis.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it doesn't, as much as transgender is absolutely important, seeing that transition, but this also applies to people who are, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to go get that surgery, I am getting a reduction, or before and after a big milestone. I had someone who was, I just turned 30 and I feel like I've accomplished a whole lot, and I want to see myself in a way that I feel like I am as an adult now versus how I felt like a kid before. Like, there are so many huge milestones in life that you can capture within the process. Transition is a huge one. I loved working with Brianna in so many ways. Seeing her, like, I met her, how many, 5 years ago now?
For a little over 4 years, yeah.
Over Boots. We met over Boots. My shoes. And like, it's been an amazing journey for her, and I've gotten to go through the process. I've gotten to participate in a way that's super special. Like, I won't forget those photo shoots any more than she will. And it's a really important. I did one for myself pre and post pregnancy. Like, it's huge to see the transformation in yourself and to see that change documented.
Yeah. And I think there was a quote that I read this week and right now I couldn't even tell you who it was from, but the point of it was that what we see in the mirror is the picture that's just ingrained in our brain. It's not really what's there in front of you, a lot of times. So to actually go and do a photo shoot, you, like you said, you get to see yourself in someone else's eyes, how they see you, and eventually see yourself differently and paint that portrait in your mind so that the next time you look in the mirror, it's like, oh yeah, that is me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's definitely some truth to that. And I'll share with you a very personal story about that. Of course I'll see photos from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, and I say, oh wow, my hair is really what most of the time I notice, because I've been graying for a long time, but what I didn't realize is how gray I am now. But that's not the point. The point is the other day I was looking in the mirror, and I think for the most part, like, I generally feel like I look the same. But I looked and I was like, I noticed like wrinkles. And I was like, holy fuck, when did that show up? Like, and it was weird initially. But going back to that, yeah, you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you kind of see the same thing until you don't. So I can only imagine, for me, it was a couple of wrinkles on my face. I can only imagine what that metamorphosis looks like for somebody transitioning.
That was a great point, because someone else just made the same kind of comment you did. Welcome Lisa and Andrea to the group, and Lisa actually responds. She gets what you're saying as well, because her comment was the same thing. What if you're creeping towards the wrinkles and want to have a memory of hotness you've probably lost over time? Which, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like you always want to capture those times in your life as memories, right? So
I don't know if anybody watches Schitt's Creek, but the phrase of I love the show, but the phrase of take 1,000 pictures of yourself so that one day you can look back and see it is extremely true. Like, someday you're going to look differently, and that someday is going to be here before you know it, and you're not going to realize the slow incremental changes to that someday. So more often you can get in front of the camera and document where you're at, the things going on in your life. Personally, I think it's the better. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's huge.
Yeah, I've heard of people that do that, where they literally take a picture of themselves every day, and they don't review them until the year is over, and then they like literally play it as a like a quick fast screening to see the change. Yes, just to see the change in their bodies and their emotions, and like, oh, this was happening in February. This is what I looked like then. What was happening then for me? And looking at this is like their photo journal, without saying anything, just expressing it.
There's something to having images, and I will scroll back through my own, and I don't know if this applies to anybody else, but I'll scroll back through my own and I can feel the emotion that I took that photo that day. Oftentimes there was a family event, or I was dressed up for this, or an anniversary, or a birthday, and I can remember, oh, I had that accomplishment that day, whatever that was, or we had a fight that day, or I was really sad that day. Like, you can step back in time a little bit through those photos, and you can feel the emotion of that moment. And so one of the things about making the person comfortable on the other side of the camera is making them feel a certain way about their experience. Like, it needs to be good, it needs to be happy, it needs to be something empowering.
So another question here, somebody brought up, and I think we talked about this before, Jade. What about the history of dementia and family and having a history? So I'm assuming they're talking about a family member who has dementia. Can you work with?
I will work with anybody, anything. I wouldn't know how it would affect the actual person with dementia. I've never worked with that
Mhm.
before, but I have had the thought of going and doing pictures with like nursing homes and things where they could see a picture of themselves. A lot of older people don't get pictures. And if you can pair that with a younger picture of themselves, that would be amazing. If they could see the transition as well. I don't know how you could document that, or if it's a matter of taking the picture before the onset, if it's like something that's hereditary in your family, and
Mhm.
and then having those images available as you're going through that transition to stronger instances of dementia. I'm sure having things that are familiar would help. I have obviously no medical background, but everything that I've ever seen would indicate that things that are tangible to a memory help. So I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be a benefit.
I think even families would want to get a photo shoot with their family member. Maybe they hadn't thought about it, and now they have dementia, and they would really like to get a picture with them as well.
Mhm.
You know, that would be even a themed shoot of some sort. You know,
Do you seem like you lean into more of the I'm going to categorize as a boudoir type photo shoot. Would that be accurate?
That is one of my predominant formats. Yes.
Okay. Do you prefer that?
It's one of my favorites because it allows people to let go in a way that like the typical portrait shoot's not ever going to do. But I would loosely hold it as boudoir as much as it's I don't even know what the term is, but seeing yourself. Like with Brianna, one of hers was out at Point State Park, and she did latex, and then she did this fabulous red dress, and it was her revealing who she'd become in a way that was intimate to her. It wouldn't necessarily be something I would consider boudoir, but it fits in that category because it was something specific to her.
Would calling it like a self-love type thing be a bad idea? Sure. Or is it,
sure. You know, I don't know that there's a term out there right now for
the
way I view it.
I call it self-care. I think the photo shoot was definitely a form of self-care for me, because it enabled me to process my transition.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've done photo shoots a number of different ways, and my favorite thing to include is something that's special to that person. And it can be something special that is kink related. I do a lot of kink things with people. That may not have sounded right.
Can you expand on that? Like, you said kink, and I think a lot of people are going to immediately think of things like 50 Shades of Grey or whatever, like you're going to tie them up and all that. Is that what you mean?
Sometimes.
Oh.
I have done shibari.
What's the phone number? Hold on.
I've done shibari shoots. I did one for Valentine's that was called Tangled Hearts, and we had someone who was a rigger. That's someone who does rope tying. Well, not professionally, but they've gone to classes and they know the care and the dangers that there are with using ropes on skin. And there were a number of ladies who did it, and it's it can be a kink for kink's sake, and it can be something that is a beauty. I like both aspects. I love the look of rope on skin and the interesting ways you can design things. So it's not necessarily something that's sensual or anything like that. Like, it's just really beautiful. And then there is kink, where there have been people who have used knife play in a session with me. There's people who've done wax play. There's
you may want to explain the knife play a little bit so people understand. We're not stabbing people or anything.
I'm not doing anything outside of consent, and I'm not participating in anything. I'm just capturing the moment between other people, and So they had a knife, and it was like on her skin. There
Got
wasn't
it.
any, like cutting. There wasn't any anything like that. So when it comes to kink, there are a lot of kinks that can be super dangerous. I don't do that with the person.
Right.
I am simply there to capture their experience, and I will fully talk that out with the couple or the person beforehand and make sure that they are fully aware of any potential risks involved in their personal thing. I don't want somebody having an issue on my set ever. I don't want somebody not being okay afterwards. And if there's something that needs some aftercare and some love and some like downtime with the person who experienced it, then we need to make sure that we factor that into the session. And so, as with every session, like it's all specific to that other person. So if there's a not a kink, but or maybe it could be there's a guy who loved guitar. Like I wanted to let him play whatever, however he wanted to play, but I needed to know like, do you need an amp? Do you need outlets? Do you need like? There's a whole set of things that you have to ask depending on whatever venue and whatever props that somebody brings, whether that is kink or whether that is not. So there is a question and answer time with every person I work with about their specific needs, for sure.
You said something. You were talking about the rope tying and about it not being, I think you said sexual, I mean, or maybe kink or whatever, sensual. Yes, thank you. And it being more of an art form. And I think it's probably important for people to know that, you know, you may not be into kink or BDSM at all, but you can take some really beautiful images and create some beautiful imagery using some of those things and still not have to, you know, want that.
Correct. Brianna, I shot over a link to the portfolio. If you can pull up, there's one where at Christmas time I did a rope tying event at a venue, and there was a girl who she wanted to be tied up like a Christmas tree, and we used ornaments, and I had a star, and so she like had a Christmas tree with rope. But it wasn't like it's you'll see the picture when she pulls it up in a second. It's not inherently sexual at all,
Right.
or necessarily kinky either, but it has that edge of different and unusual maybe to your average person, but it has a unique flavor that person was wanting. And so I love when somebody does something that's non-traditional, that's unique, that's different, that speaks to their heart. So you'll see right there. It was so much fun. Like this is one of my favorite ones from that night. I did, I want to say 20 some odd different people at that venue. And it was just a lot of fun to hear what they had in their brains and then be able to make it happen.
Yeah, it's always great when you have this idea in your head and you can bring it to somebody to help you conceptualize it and you know, give it life. Yeah, and I think that's some of the things that we've done as well. You know, I sit here and I'm like, okay, what are we doing for this one? You know, and someone will give me an idea or something, and I'm like, okay, how do we put this together? Why do we do this or whatever? And it's always fun, like I said, to bring that to life for other people and have them then realize, wow, that's what that looks like. That's what I look like with that background. Or it's always a lot of fun. I know I've seen your picture, Brianna, at the point, and I think you're standing in front of the or near the fountain, and that one to me just I'm like, wow.
Okay, yeah. The
Now, yeah, it's just
See if I can
like
find-
I'm out there. Here I am, world. And that's what I took from that one. Yeah.
That was so revealing I agree. This one here. It was so like, yeah. And honestly, that's exactly how it felt because there were bullets literally trailing down the freaking river, and as they got to the bottom, they would shift back around to the top of the stream of boats and the water flowing as they would go down. And so it wasn't usually interesting because you had, I mean, it could have been anybody in a latex outfit there at the point they were staring.
It's
They
hot.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was hot. That heat rash I had after this.
They make my screen bigger.
I need to see that.
Yeah, I literally got into the water at one point.
You did.
Did you?
Yes, because it was that warm. And then when I shedded that thing off, it was like it was all water coming out of the suit, except it wasn't water.
It was an experience, that is for sure.
Yeah, I was so amazed that after all those pictures we did with the latex on, that when I switched over to the red dress was a backup thing for me. I thought, like, you know, those red shots, they're going to be kind of cool. And then I come out with pictures like this. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't say the word. Oh my effing God. Like, that is like, I never thought I could picture myself. I'm just speechless. Like, just, and, you know, and I'm trans, so, you know, it's an emotional thing. It was really, and literally I was putting my shoes on, and this is just how Jade twists it up. It's like, hold still, I want to take a picture of that. Because my smile was original at that point. That was like, you know, those were one of the ways that she was breaking through my self-image of, you know, how I should look like in the picture versus, as how did you say it, Jade? Like, you know, talk to the camera, like look through it. And it was like those words that she was able just to get in my head and get me out of that fact that I was getting pictures taken, but more that I was showing my feelings. Like my feelings were coming through the camera. That's it.
I would hope, this is something I hope to do with people, is that they would forget that the camera's there and they're just having a good time with a friend. And they're revealing themselves in a way that isn't for show. It's just them being them. And I get to capture that beautiful moment on camera. And then they get to have that as a takeaway later. This is my favorites of you.
Yeah.
It is, because you know, like, and I think one of the golden child assets you have in the photography is that you can see the different perspectives of people and how to bring that out in them. Which, you know, I've had a couple other photo shoots, and aside from the awkwardness with the photographer, was the pictures that were taken. And so, you know, some of the pictures were okay. The other was, it was just like, there wasn't a connection. And so that the connection that you were able to make with me, and I've seen all of your pictures, like the connection is like there with everybody. You connect so well. So, with this, like you were like seeing something I wasn't, honestly. I was like, I'm laying on this thing. You're like, arch your back. I'm like, I am arching my back.
It doesn't go any further.
I wasn't saying it, but, and then I was like, I was so fearful I was going to break one of these heels.
That's the thing. The person in the moment is like, this is so awkward and so weird, and this is not going to look good.
Like, my leg's going to get this heel next time.
I always tell people, like, going through a photo shoot is like a workout, because you're going to be moving your body in ways that you probably never have, you know, and like the arching of your back, you're like, what? And then you feel it the next day. You definitely do feel it the next day.
Yeah. I suggest often to people that they should do stretches beforehand.
Yoga. Do some yoga.
I'm serious, because they're okay. So if you take a picture of somebody's hand just like this on a camera, it looks weird, and so you kind of have to do these weird angles where you're getting definition in your hand that you wouldn't normally be thinking about. And so
Right.
even just holding your hand differently is something that needs to be done. And people who've never done that don't know. I haven't been in front of the camera in a long time, and I did one in, I want to say, March. And afterwards I was like, oh my goodness, my back. Because you've got those arches and those angles, and you're like, okay, just tilt a little bit this way. Now hold that for like 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's like, oh. So there isn't a physical aspect to it that people are surprised by, for sure.
Yeah.
So, question, talking about all this stuff, I have to imagine there have been some awkward moments during photo shoots. What is the one, and obviously you're not going to say names or anything, but what is the one thing that you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe that happened?
Honestly, there's not a whole lot that puts me off of my game. I am a roll with the punches type person. I think for me, the thing that sticks out the most are amazing moments versus awkward ones, because I just laugh and I get the person to laugh, and we're like, well, that was weird, and we move on. But like, there was this one picture, and I think it's in the link that I sent you. There's a shower shot. Brianna, can you see if you can find that one?
I'm looking through it right now. Is it okay to share any of these pictures?
You can show all those pictures. There's one that I took, and I'd never had this experience before, of a lady. She was in the shower, and we were trying to get some like good texture skin shots of water and everything. And I'd never done a shower scene before, the way that I was doing it. And I took her picture, and as I took it and saw the image on the lens, like, I had this tingly sensation on my body and like this adrenaline reaction of, I can't even express it, but it was like overwhelming, oh my God moment. And I was like, that is the best shot I think I've ever taken in my life. I can't believe we just did that. And when she brings it up, like, it just, there was this reaction to seeing her beauty in that moment that was amazing. And I would never have expected that as a photographer, that I would react to somebody's imagery that way.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward moments, not so much. We just laugh. We just make it a joke and we move on. And I honestly can't. I know they've happened, but I can't think of any.
No, that's great though. I'll tell you what. I was honestly leading you. I thought we'd come up with a great story, but you came up with a even better response than what I could have imagined. So, yeah, I think
people on the other side might have awkward moments, because they're in that moment and they already feel uncomfortable. But because I've done it enough, I just like to push through. I can either
right.
magnify that moment and make it more awkward, or it can be like, it's all good, things happen, and like you just move forward, and then it's in the past. You know what I mean? So
that's you literally just described the recipe for how people should live their life.
Yeah.
Not
nice.
Yeah, they're going to be weird and awkward and terrible moments and whatever, but there are way more amazing things going on in life, and gloss over the crap and keep moving forward. I mean, Jade's recipe for life. So is this the photo you were talking about?
It is not.
Okay. I'm not good at this. There's so many pictures to pick from. Oh my God.
From here though, isn't it?
Actually, it's she's standing against a tiled wall, and she has a tattooed arm. Dark hair.
Those are all great.
Yeah. This was one of ours.
Yeah, there's quite a few in there.
Yeah, the last one we did.
Wonderful. Yeah. Right there on the far right, the big one.
Oh dear God. Okay.
Like, it was simply amazing, this shot.
Yeah.
And I would love to have more moments like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that was just Like that was our first take. I love it when somebody just falls into that moment and it's easy.
Yeah.
And the way that is easy is by their comfort level. The ones that you have to pull at, we still get amazing shots, but it's more difficult. So it really that comfortability and the connection is the most important thing in all of my shoots. You're welcome to play the slide if you want to play slideshows. There's a lot of.
Look at the slide. I want to see some more.
While we show them, you were
Actually,
talking about.
I think if you just leave that up, that looks great like that. Yeah, just leave that.
I do all sorts of things when it comes to photography. You mentioned boudoir, if that was my preference. I love boudoir. I absolutely do. I love the intimacy of it. I love the way women and men, I call them doudoirs, when guys do it.
Boudoirs.
I love the intimacy and the openness that people get to in them. If you just click on the first one, it should start a slideshow at some point. But I love doing interesting and unique. So like this first one right here, it was a Halloween shoot. And, there was a group of, I want to say 6 or 7 ladies that dressed up as characters, and we went into the woods and we took pictures of Cruella de Vil or Maleficent and Carrie. This is one from the last one that we did.
Yeah, that is
a couples shoot there. This is the Halloween one. This is an event where it's a fire show. So I've kept, this is a burlesque show.
Yeah.
That's Carrie in the woods. This was a glow party. That was at the body shop.
So you a lot of different events that you even do shoots for. I mean,
yes.
You have a very wide dynamic.
I do. I've done physical competitions as well. This is a group of friends that gets together and they're all witches during the fall.
Do they throw spells on each other?
I wouldn't put it past them.
Watch yourself.
Any of those, G?
I'm not pissing off any witches. I'm not pissing off. I'm trying not to piss off anybody.
No, like I just love finding unique things that people do and capturing that. This is the wax play right there.
Those are great.
Yeah.
I love the pictures where the eyes just come through the camera. You know what I mean? That you can just really see somebody's poised and like really like feeling themselves that way.
To me, the ones that I've seen that are from some of the events that we've done, I'm thoroughly like amazed because, like I said, knowing what they came in with and what their outlook was on the whole thing, and then when they walked out of the room to now seeing the pictures, it's like, wow, totally different person. Totally different person. And for me, those are the things that are important, and those are the things that are very, I'm gonna get emotional, beautiful for me to be able to bring you out into the table, for these women to have these experiences, as well as men. I know we've talked about some body positivity projects that we want to do as well in the future, and I'm all for it. I can't wait to go down that path and see what images we can come up with.
On the subject of shooting men, I absolutely love guy shoots. There's a soft spot I have for women, of course, because as a woman, there was a conversation I was having with somebody about how you raise your daughter to be confident. Because I have a little girl, she just turned 3 this week, and how do you get her to the place where she can wear whatever she wants, whether it's revealing or not, whether it's quirky or not, and she feels confident in it? How do you start that process? Because as a woman, I was always told, you need to cover up more, you need to be quieter, you need to calm yourself down. And I don't want that for my little girl. And I feel like with the shoots that I do, I want to find that person that is the quirky, the weird, noxious. I want to see that person come out of them and then walk away more comfortable doing that on a daily basis. So that's my soft spot for women, because I feel like women get put in that box a lot in culture. And I want to break that box. But for men, I feel like, and G, you could totally prove me wrong here, but I feel like they don't often, one, get the opportunity or feel like they have the, I don't know if it's a right or even an option to put themselves out there in that way. That it would be looked on as prideful or weird or something along those lines where you shouldn't be doing that.
There's a ton of reasons why guys wouldn't do that. I'll speak for myself. You know, probably the same reason as 100% of the other people are uncomfortable doing it. It's you know, a negative self-image. Now, you know, of course, there are guys out there that, you know, have what I'll categorize as a, you know, very, you know, very fit and trim or whatever. And of course they look good and they're proud of that. And they probably have less of an issue with that. But I would even submit that people that look like that still have body positivity issues. There's that one thing or three things on their body that they don't like, even though to everybody else it might look great or wonderful or fine or, oh my gosh, you know, that's, you know, so yeah, for us, for guys, it would be a lot of the same thing. There may be some other, you know, there may be other reasons, but I think that's probably the primary reason. Same as anybody else. I mean, you know, not everybody's running out, men or women, to go get boudoir shoots or erotic shoots or sensual shoots for that very reason. But having somebody like you, Jade, to, you know, sort of put forth that it's okay, and you have the ability seemingly to draw that out in people, that's what's needed, for sure. We need to do that in general, just about our bodies and our sexuality and all of that. I mean, the more open we are, the better it is for everybody.
I agree, absolutely. I think when it comes to men, oftentimes when I've talked to them, they're like, oh, I never thought of it, or that's something I'd send my wife to do, or like they just, there's not that desire, or maybe they don't see a need to have the images for themselves. Whereas for me, getting image, like I've done some shots of my husband and getting an image of him in a really nice suit or rolling up his sleeves in that, you know, that thing that some women like when they roll up their sleeves and show their forearms, or dirty and grimy and they're working on a car or whatever. Like there's an enjoyment for myself in them, but even with my husband who knows what I do, there's not necessarily that same I'm going to go and enjoy that photo aspect. And I don't know if that's cultural or if it's gender or if it's, I don't know what maybe it is. Just, I love capturing men in their elements.
I think maybe part of it is just society. I mean, when we look at art, when we go to museums, you know, outside of everything that was art-based back when you're thinking about the Greek and the Renaissance, everything's women. You know, all of your art, all of your paintings, you know, pictures, they're all focused around women. So you don't see that for men. And I think because maybe through society, it's like, well, men are men. You know, you don't say a man is beautiful. Everyone's like, oh, no, they're handsome. It's a totally different thing. Like, why can't a man be beautiful? Why can't you have a beautiful picture of a man or someone who identifies, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of society.
Yeah. The whole gender assignment, that comes all the way back to, you know, the whole male and female. Like even just a simple conversation about the Olympics, for example, and the cross-gender thing like that. Why would the Olympics set up as male and female? Why couldn't it be weight-based or skill-based? You know what I mean? So I feel like that's the same thing. We put men into this box, like they have to be, mask and, when it's not the case at all. You look at the LGBTQ community and there's a whole melody of men, men male identifying them even, you know what I mean? There's just, and so it's definitely breaking that cultural thing. And I think photos are definitely a great way to do that.
Yeah.
But
when you guys were mentioning that, you asked about men in general, about what some of the trepidations might be. Something it didn't dawn on me at first when you asked the question was, assuming you do naked photo shoots with men, penis size.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
100%. Even men with huge wieners have issues thinking, "Oh, my wiener's not big enough."
right.
That's when you just do a photo shoot like Burt Reynolds and you base your hat size on your wiener size. No.
there you go.
Well, I do nude photo shoots. I've actually got quite a few pictures of genitalia, but it's never like the way that I do it is never about the size. And it's never in a way of let me show this off. Like it's typically
Right.
I've only done a few where it's a single guy in the shoot. He may or may not be single, but like it's just him. But most of them, when it's been nude, it's him and her. And so it's the two of them together and the way they're interacting, and it's not a focus on the object of desire or whatever you want to call it. But it's
an accessory.
It's the intimacy between the two that I'm capturing, and that may be an aspect. And again, the awkward moments, those would be the awkward moments, but they're done with the partner and they're with the way that like it's them together, and I'm just capturing it.
That's for sure. Think about it. Oh my god. You can always think of like people. I don't know, this would be a good analogy or not. They almost overlook or over concentrate on the size of that versus their image of their face. You know what I mean? Like we all are so eccentric about making sure our face looks perfect. Where I think the same amount of attention is being paid down there. Right? And that's male or female when you think about it. I mean, men are definitely more compensating, but
it's the same thing with shooting. There was a couple bare-topped ladies in the slideshow that you sent. That shower one, she wasn't wearing a top. That's an uncomfortable thing. Like it's going to the doctor and you're like, I don't really want to get undressed for this doctor. Yeah. But then you've had a couple babies and you're like, I don't care. There is that comfort level that you've got to get to in order to do that level of reveal. I don't ever want to be like, we are doing a nude shot and you're taking your clothes off. This is another topic altogether, but like it's a shoot about what you're most comfortable with. If that's sweaters and jeans, let's shoot sweaters and jeans and make that look amazing. If it's lingerie, if it's a banana boat over your shoulder, whatever thing, like whatever you want to do. I've got a guy who wants to do a merman shoot.
Sweet.
It's not about what you aren't wearing. It's about you being you and being super comfortable as you. And so when it comes to those nude shoots, if you're not comfortable being nude, don't do nude. Yeah. And I've had people who are like, I'd like to do some, but I don't know that I'm really able to. And I'm like, let's start with clothes. Let's start with whatever you're comfortable with. And if you want to start taking off pieces along the way and we get there, awesome. And if we don't, it's not mine. It's your experience and it's your images that you get at the end. Like none of this is for me. So if you never get there, and that's fine with me.
And I think if someone feels like they're being pushed into that, it's going to show in the pictures as well. It's going to come off like, wow, that was a very uncomfortable moment for you. You'll be able to see it in their body, in their face, and that's not what we want.
No,
And we
even with husbands and wife, the same thing. Like, I'm not pushing anyone towards any flavor of shoot that they want. It is, I want to capture those moments between you, and wherever those moments take you, let's follow that trail. And if it is just you guys are snuggling on the couch under a blanket when you're fully clothed and it's like super cute, awesome. That's you. That's your identity, is who you are as a couple, and you will love those photos because it is the two of you. If I made you do something, it would be creepy feeling.
Yeah.
So I feel like my last shoot was definitely that. Like I couldn't even show you a majority of those pictures. No. Nudicity. I was very bare skinned. Also gold flake. So, and that was the question, like, what should I take off? And that was exactly how you posed it. Well, what do you feel comfortable taking off? Like, and I kind of posed that as to one of the questions I want to ask you is like, I feel like, do you feel like a therapist of sorts at some points? Because you feel you definitely have to work. It's a little bit of a minefield sometimes working through people's feelings, right? Like you.
Absolutely. I've had, and you've been emotional on set before with me. I've had people break down and sob, and out comes their story of why they are where they are and what the shoot means to them. Like we were talking about earlier, the transformation. Someone who went through a divorce, and now she was rebuilding herself and her life, and she cried as she told me that story. I didn't ask for, any personal information in that aspect, but like a simple question of, what does this mean to you? Once you're comfortable, out comes a lot. And I've had shoots where they've told me, there was this one shoot that she had been through some emotional drama for like 2 years. And she's like, I am strong. I'm a queen. I am all these things. And I was like, all right, before we start, I'll do a few test shots at the beginning to get lighting on the skin, because everybody's skin reacts differently to light. I was like, as I'm doing these, I want you to look in this mirror and I want you to tell yourself the things that you've become. And she's like, what? I was like, talk to yourself and tell yourself these things that you've become. These breakthroughs that you've had. So as I was shooting, she stood there talking to herself in the mirror, and she just started breaking down and crying about this transformation that happened in her life. We did touch-ups and all her makeup for the actual shoots afterwards, but like there was that moment of her grabbing her own identity and confidence, and there is an emotional therapeutic breakthrough a lot of times when it's a meaningful experience. There's plenty of shoots, I just want to feel sexy and I just want to feel good, and that's great. But the ones that are the transformations or the milestone markers, those ones have a large emotional impact, and I have to take care of that person's emotional mindset at that moment and make sure that they leave in a state where they're whole. I don't disregard it. I don't shame them for any emotions that they feel or anything like that. Like there is a coming together of the two of us and working through whatever it is that comes out in that moment.
Yeah.
So we're on to like an hour already. I want to go ahead and ask a few more questions and wrap things up. But yeah, so I threw a thing out for those of you who are watching. If you'd like to ask Jade any questions before we wrap up, please feel free to. So you have you have an actual setup whenever you are done. You do your photo shoot, and then how do you release your pictures to your clients?
So I do the photos with you wherever we end up doing the venue. And then I usually give a 2-week period of editing. That's lighting adjustments. Say there were some bruises or some events have had like bracelet tags or whatever, things that I would remove from the photos later. So there's an editing period, and then I've sent that person a link to see their proofs. So it's much like the slideshow that you showed. for the proofs that you would just go through, and there's a heart option, just like in Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You would heart the ones that you like, and we would send that as a download transfer to you.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. It's usually via email or messenger or sometimes text message.
Okay.
It's
And-
just links.
So what is it? So how long does a typical shoot last?
It varies. Oftentimes, if it's an event, it's anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. If it's something scheduled just with me, I typically do an hour, but I've done shoots that are longer than that. And it really depends on what you're going for. The more specialized or unique it is, or if it's a group, like the one with all the Halloween characters, that was a couple hours.
Okay.
You've got 6 people you're going through, and you're trying to get everybody so many shots. But as a one-on-one, it's usually an hour. The one that with Brianna that I did, the Gold Flex, and I've got it coming up if people are interested. I've got a mini set for that. It would be about a half an hour to apply the Gold Flex, and then a half an hour to shoot. So roughly an hour there, but you've got cleanup afterwards as well, because that gold does not come off super easy.
So is this something that costs like thousands of dollars to have done? Because I mean, I think most people's experience with photographers are probably at weddings, and my understanding is they're very expensive to have a wedding photographer.
Wedding photography is typically expensive because you're shooting for an entire day typically. You're doing before photos, during photos, reception photos. You've got bridal parties and all that stuff, the getting ready and everything. So there is quite an expense on the wedding side. I've never actually done a wedding. I've quoted a few, and they've just never panned out. But as for a one-on-one, your typical in the industry is going to be about $3,000 to $3,500 for a photo shoot.
Wow.
Mine are not. That is your typical. That is your typical. My session fees right now are $325.
Oh wow.
So that does not include location, because I don't currently have a studio, but I do partner with studios, and like you guys have done, I've come to the body shop and shot at your guys' location. So it depends on the location. I've often done Airbnbs, I've done hotels, I've done parks, I've done a wide variety of things. So the location cost isn't in there. If you want a hair and makeup, that's not in that cost either. That's just scheduling my time and coming and shooting for an hour.
So you are mobile, like Brianna's Mobile Workshop.
I've shot all the way up in Cleveland. I've shot in West Virginia, all over Pittsburgh area, up in Newcastle. So I do travel. Travel cost isn't necessarily included, but it's not always necessarily a fee either, because I live out in the sticks. So for me to go anywhere, there's some travel.
I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, you're saying a typical shoot would, for anybody else, would be like $3,000 to $3,500. You're at 10% of the cost, but I can tell you right now, I don't know that there's anybody that would be able to tell the difference.
Thank you.
I agree, 100%. Oh my god.
I would say a lot of the cost out there in the industry is based on products. And I can do products, but I don't predominantly, because not many of the people that I do shoot would actually want to put a big piece of art of their shoot up. Now, Brianna's talked about putting hers up, and I have had some clients that do prints and things like that. But I just typically do digital copies to people because of the nature of the kind of shoots that I do. They're more unique, and they're not necessarily something people are going to put out there for the public.
It's not going to grandma.
No, not usually. I mean, I would hang up everybody's photo. If I had a studio, it would be covered in all the images. But if you want, I feel like if you want product and if you want something more, there's that option. We can absolutely. I have connections to getting really amazing prints done, but I don't feel like that's a necessity to put on you as a booking fee.
Mhm.
Which is cool. You're posting services. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
That's
I
great.
want people. This is the other thing. I'm not going to go spend $3,500 on a photo shoot, and I'm a photographer, and I know the value of it. I'm not going to spend that kind of money, but
Jade just got herself blacklisted.
a few $100s to go and document some amazing milestone or transformation in my life, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's worth it to me to have a weekend experience or some girl. I've done girl parties where there's a group of friends and they are away in a cabin and they all just want some wonderful friend shots. Like there's an experience aspect to what I'm doing that is worth it.
Right.
But I don't think throwing somebody, $1,000 bill is worth it.
Mhm.
I want your average person to be able to come and feel amazing, and making it more expensive makes that prohibitive.
Yeah.
Right. That's great.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very generous of you with your time and your skills.
Yes.
Yeah. So, kind of want to wrap up. One more question for you before we go, though, and that is, how do we get in touch with you? What's the easiest and best way for you?
Facebook is typically my avenue for getting in touch with me. I use Messenger a lot, but email as well. I have 5 kids, and so phone is not the best.
The phone is not your friend unless you're calling for help.
If you want to be able to hear me from the other side. So Messenger, email, those are the best ways to get hold of me.
Awesome.
Comment on my page. I will get in touch with you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
I appreciate being included in this, and thanks for all the information too. I learned a lot, truly.
Thanks.
Jade, for sure. And I want to one more shout out to Tabitha. Thanks for throwing up some comments as well. Jade, thank you so much for coming on. Mary Lou and G as well.
We appreciate the invite.
Yes.
It's such a presence you two bring, and it just you make things flow really well. We're be up here going, okay, what am I gonna do next? A couple voices out there there was great questions and answers. A couple good questions from our crowd as well. So
there's a saying, many hands make light work. So
true. Yes.
We made this work.
So I want to thank both of you from Brianna's Mobile Workshop, from all of you from Brianna's Mobile Workshop, and everybody who watched us today. Have a happy Sunday. Again, if you need a photo shoot, there's no better person I could tell you is out there than Jade with Bloom Images. So, with that said, everybody have a good Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the sunny weather, as long as it don't rain today. But I said the R word. So
it's not rar.
So again, thank you and bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.